My sister stole my fiancé 3 days before our wedding, so I gave her the wedding gift she'd never forget. I should have seen it coming. Maya had always been the golden child. Prettier, smarter, more charming. People naturally gravitated toward her, like moths to a flame. Growing up, she didn't just borrow my clothes. She borrowed my friends, my confidence, my peace. Eventually, she started borrowing my boyfriends too. When I was 16, she convinced my longtime crush, Tommy Martinez, to take her to prom instead of me. She told him I'd been talking about another guy. I found out when he showed up at our front door with a corsage for her. I didn't even know they were talking. When I was 22, she moved in with my college boyfriend, David, while I was studying abroad in Italy. Claimed she was helping him through depression after his father died. My parents? They defended her, just like they always did. Maya doesn't mean to hurt you, Mom would say, gently stroking my hair while I cried into her lap. She just has this magnetic personality. People are drawn to her. Your sister's not malicious, Dad added. She's just young. She doesn't always think things through. But they were wrong. Maya always thought things through. I learned that the hard way when I found her diary at 15. Pages filled with bullet points and observations, plans about how to steal. My friends, my opportunities, my life, she wrote about Tommy. Claire's so boring. I bet I could get him to notice me in one conversation. About David. He's too good for Claire anyway. She doesn't appreciate what she has. But Jake Patterson, he was supposed to be different. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 8 months. I met him while waitressing to pay for nursing school. He was a line cook, covered in flour and hope, talking about a restaurant he dreamed of opening one day. Jake wasn't perfect, but he was real. He made me laugh during his worst kitchen disasters, when we were scraping burnt sauce off pans at 2 a.m. I was there when the banks wouldn't give him a loan, offering him my entire savings account, $23,000. I'd spent years building, to fund his business plan. I stood by him when his own family called him a failure for dropping out of college to attend culinary school. I believed in him, even when no one else did. Jake had seen Maya manipulate men before. He'd been at those family dinners where she flirted with my high school boyfriend, Matt, right in front of me. I thought he understood. I needed to believe. He understood. At our engagement party, she accidentally spilled red wine on our printed photos. The lighting makes you look washed out, she said, already offering to retake them with her photographer friend. She's exhausting, Jake said afterward. I don't know how you put up with her constant drama. I defended her. She means well. She just doesn't have a filter. He rolled his eyes. That's not a filter issue. That's who she is. The rehearsal dinner was perfect. We'd rented the private dining room at Bella Vista, the restaurant where Jake and I had our first official date. 50 of our closest friends and family. Soft jazz playing over the laughter and champagne toasts. Jake squeezed my hand under the table while my father gave a heartfelt speech about love, about watching Jake grow from a scrappy line cook into a man worthy of his daughter's heart. Maya sat directly across from Jake, her idea. Best spot. For photos, she'd said, wearing the $400 sapphire bridesmaid dress I'd picked. She leaned in whenever he spoke, laughed too loudly at his jokes, touched his arm like they shared some private language. She's just excited for you, Jake whispered, noticing my stiff posture. Maya's always been dramatic. Then came the maid of honor speech. She stood slowly, gripping the microphone like she was about to deliver a UN address. Claire has always been my role model, she said, voice trembling like it was soaked in emotion. She's taught me about loyalty, about standing by the people you love, no matter what. Jake, you're getting someone who will fight for your dreams. Claire, you're getting someone who sees how incredible you are. She raised her glass. To Claire and Jake, may you always choose each other, no matter what. Everyone applauded. Jake kissed my cheek. Your sister really loves you. And in that moment, I felt guilty for ever doubting her. 2 nights later, I couldn't sleep. I blamed it on wedding nerves. The dress was laid out, an A-line vintage design with hand-sewn pearls, the same one my grandmother wore in 1952. I'd confirmed the caterer's head count, 147. Checked that the rings were safe in the best man's pocket. Made sure the photographer knew about the shot of my parents' wedding bands next to ours. I even set hourly alarms on my phone to remind me to hydrate and eat. At 5 a.m., I gave up on sleep and decided to surprise Jake with coffee. One last quiet morning as fiancé before everything changed. I picked up his favorite dark roast from the 24-hour diner, grabbed fresh bagels. My key turned in his lock, same, as it had 100 times. But nothing could have prepared me for what I found inside. There, in his bed, lay my sister and my fiancé, Maya. Wearing the white silk lingerie I'd bought for our honeymoon, $300 of delicate lace from the boutique she had recommended, tangled around her ankles. Jake was beside her, sheets twisted. At his waist, his chest rising in panicked breaths. The engagement ring he spent months saving for? Sitting on the nightstand next to empty champagne flutes and greasy leftovers from Russo's, the same restaurant where we'd celebrated our 6-month anniversary. Maya saw me first. No shame, no surprise, just triumph. I was going to tell you, she said slowly, sitting up without bothering to cover herself. Jake realized he chose the wrong sister. Jake scrambled for his boxers, stammering something about it. Just happening. That he was confused, that he still loved me somehow. Claire, this isn't what it looks like, he said. The most cliché line possible. But Maya cut him off. Her laugh, cold, cruel, familiar. The same laugh she used when she lied about me, breaking Mom's antique vase when we were 12. Stop pretending you're sorry, Jake. We've been planning this for months. Tell her about the hotel room in Vegas, Maya said, her voice laced with a sick sort of satisfaction. The one from that restaurant conference. Tell her about Christmas when you said my name in your sleep. Or last week, when you told me you wished you'd met me first. I couldn't breathe. My knees went weak, like my body couldn't carry the weight of her words. The Vegas conference? That was in March, 7 months ago. Christmas. We'd spent it at my parents' house. Maya stayed in the guest room right next to ours, and last week when Jake had been distant, blaming work stress, he was with her. Maya's voice got louder, steadier, like she'd been rehearsing this monologue for months. Tell her about the loan, too, about how you're planning to use her savings to open a restaurant with me instead. My $23,000, the money I'd earned working 60-hour weeks as a nursing assistant, skipping holidays, skipping meals, saying no to vacations just so I could say yes to us. The money that was supposed to fund our dream, Patterson's place. Jake turned pale. Maya, stop, he said weakly. But she was on a roll. Tell her about the apartment we looked at last week, the one with the big kitchen and garden view. Tell her how we were going to leave right after the wedding. Take her money and start fresh in Portland. Portland, Jake had brought that up recently, said a chef friend had a lead on a job there. I encouraged him, thinking maybe a fresh start would help us build something stronger. But now it all made sense. Every flower order I placed, every RSVP I confirmed, every cake tasting I scheduled. I was planning a celebration for my own betrayal. The late nights Jake blamed on kitchen shifts, when he came home smelling like someone else's perfume. Probably one of the servers, he'd said. The sisterly shopping trips Maya canceled, always with vague mentions of a new guy she wasn't ready to talk about, and how eager they both were to handle the photographer and videographer. We have connections, Maya said. We can save you money. Chelsea Morrison, Maya had insisted. She's amazing with candids. She'll capture every moment. Now I understood why. I didn't say a word. I just turned and walked out. They were still calling my name as I descended the narrow staircase, Jake's voice cracking with desperation, Maya shouting after him to let me go. "Claire, please!" Jake yelled from the window, half naked and frantic as I started my car. "Let me explain." I drove, slowly, quietly, and didn't look back. For 6 hours, I sat alone on a bench at Sunset Beach. It was the same spot where Jake had proposed 13 months earlier, with a sunset picnic and Thai food from my favorite hole-in-the-wall restaurant. He'd made a playlist of all our songs, every one of them carefully chosen. He'd gotten down on one knee, his hands trembling as he opened the ring box. "I can't imagine doing any of this without you," he said. "I love how you make me better. I want you by my side forever." I should have been crying, calling my parents, canceling vendors, but instead, I felt something else settling in my chest. It was cold, still, steady. Maya had taken things from me my entire life, a necklace here, a friendship there, a boyfriend or two. And I always forgave her, because that's what family does, right? We forgive. We move on. We bite our tongues and smooth over the damage because that's what's expected of the reasonable sibling. But this wasn't a sweater. This wasn't prom. This was my future, my love, my money, my life. And this time, I wasn't going to let it go. At 11 a.m., I drove back to my childhood home. My parents were in the kitchen, frantic and panicked, on the phone with vendors, trying to cancel everything. My mom sobbed into the receiver as she spoke to the florist. My dad looked 10 years older, arguing with the caterer about their non-refundable deposit. "Sweetheart," Mom said when she saw me. Mascara streaked down her face. Jake called. He explained everything. He said, it was cold feet. That sometimes this happens before a big commitment. Maybe if you two just talk, maybe this can still be saved. Even now they were defending him. Even now they were defending her. Jake had been around for 4 years. Maya was their baby. And I was just the one expected to keep the peace. "There's no confusion," I said calmly, setting my purse on the counter. "The wedding is still happening tomorrow. Just not the way anyone expects." They exchanged looks. Dad cleared his throat. "Honey, maybe you're in shock. Why don't you sit down and we can—" "I'm not in shock," I interrupted. "I'm thinking clearly for the first time in months." And I said, "The wedding is still happening." I left them speechless and locked myself in my old bedroom. Then I made some calls. First, Derek, my cousin, 3 years older, brilliant, blunt, and immune to Maya's charm. He worked in tech security, surveillance systems for celebrities, corporate investigations, cheating spouses. He was the only person in our family who'd ever seen through Maya's act. "I need a favor," I said as soon as he picked up. "Remember when you said I could ask for anything after I helped you during your divorce?" Derek's ex-wife had tried to strip him of everything: money, property, even his dog. I'd helped him document her affair and shady financials. He ended up with full custody of the dog, his assets, and a newfound appreciation for subtle revenge. "Name it," he said. I told him everything: Jake, Maya, the money, the betrayal. Derek listened quietly. Then, "Those pieces of shit. What do you need?" "Everything," I said. "How long this has been going on, what they've planned, if anyone else is involved. I want documentation. Clear, undeniable, and airtight." "Give me Jake's address and phone number," he said. "I can have micro cameras installed in his apartment within 2 hours. If I can get physical access to his phone for 30 seconds, I can clone it. How technical do you want to get?" "As technical as necessary, but it needs to be legal." "Leave that to me." He was already in motion. "His building doesn't have cameras, right?" "Good. His lease probably includes a clause about maintenance access. I'll pose as a cable repair guy. Half the neighborhood's been having Wi-Fi issues anyway. Next, I called Chelsea Morrison, the photographer Maya had pushed so hard for. Chelsea, this is Claire Richardson. You're photographing my wedding tomorrow. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Maya's told me so much about you. Are you having pre-wedding jitters? You sound a little… Actually, I said, steady and measured. There's been a change in plans. I have a very specific shot list for tomorrow, I told Chelsea. And I need to know if you're comfortable capturing some unconventional moments. Of course, she said brightly. I pride myself on getting the shots other photographers miss. What did you have in mind? I need you to document everything that happens. Everything. Even if it feels inappropriate or uncomfortable. Especially then. Can you do that? There was a pause on the line. Maya mentioned you might want dramatic shots, Chelsea finally said. She said you're really into authentic storytelling. I'm totally on board. Should I bring extra memory cards? Of course, Maya had set this up, planning the story she wanted told, probably picturing me humiliated at the altar while Chelsea captured every sob, every betrayal. She wanted content, something viral, something she'd laugh about over wine. Bring everything you've got, I said. And Chelsea, this conversation stays between us. No leaks. The surprise element is crucial. Your secret's safe with me, she promised. Maya always said you were more creative than people give you credit for. After we hung up, I stared at my phone. They thought they had planned the perfect downfall. A theatrical, poetic, slow-motion collapse of my life, wrapped in pretty pictures and champagne toasts. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The hardest call of all was to Jake's mother. She picked up on the second ring. Hello? Mrs. Patterson? It's Claire. I have something important to tell you about tomorrow's wedding. There was a pause. What's wrong, dear? You sound upset. I told her everything, every last detail. From what I walked in on, to how long it had been going on. The lies, the money, the plan, the apartment in Portland, the restaurant. When I finished, she didn't speak. I could hear her breathing, short and sharp, like she was holding back, fury. Those sinful children, she finally whispered, her voice trembling. After everything you've done for that boy, after you supported him through culinary school, when even his own father called him worthless. Jake's father was brutal, cold, and dismissive. I'd spent years patching up Jake's self-worth after every dinner where his dad compared him to his finance brother David. I gave him backbones and belief. Mrs. Patterson, I said, I have a plan, but I need your help. Tell me what you need, sweetheart, she said fiercely. That boy has been heading for a fall his whole life. And Maya, she's the kind of woman who'll drag him straight to hell. She was ready. She wanted this. I could feel it. I explained everything. The surveillance, the wedding, the exposure. There was a long silence after I laid it out. You sure this is legal? Derek's handling the technical side. Everything will be documented, airtight. And technically, I'm not doing anything. I'm just letting the truth speak for itself, at my own wedding. Mrs. Patterson made a satisfied noise. Jake needs to learn that actions have consequences. And Maya, she's gotten away with everything for too long. People like that think kindness is weakness. It's not. One last thing, I said. I need to make sure Jake shows up tomorrow. If he bails, this doesn't work. Oh, he'll be there, she said grimly. I'll make sure of it. He owes you an explanation in front of everyone. The next morning, my wedding day, I woke at 6 a.m. Calm, more centered than I'd felt in months. My phone was buzzing nonstop. Bridesmaids texting about schedules, vendors confirming delivery windows, guests asking for directions to the church. At 6:15, a text came through from Maya. Jake told me everything. I'm so sorry, sis. I never meant for this to happen. Can we talk before the ceremony? I need to explain. Even now she was lying, still pretending this was some tragic mistake, some impulsive accident, rather than the coordinated betrayal it had always been. I stared at the message, then replied, "Of course. See you at the church. We'll have plenty of time to talk." She had no idea I'd spent the night setting every domino in place for her special day. At 3 a.m., Derek had texted me. "Package delivered. Everything's in place. You're going to love the bonus footage." Bonus footage. That meant he found more than expected, more lies, more betrayal. Maya and Jake had been sloppy, too confident. They thought once the wedding was over, they could ride off into the sunset, with my money and no consequences. At 8 a.m., my hair and makeup team arrived. I'd kept all the original appointments. No one knew what was coming, and I wanted it that way. "You seem really zen," Sarah, my makeup artist, said as she brushed foundation across my skin. "Most brides are a mess by now." "I'm exactly where I need to be," I told her. And it was true. At 10 a.m., I pulled up to St. Mary's. Catholic church in full bridal glory. White A-line dress, pearls, veil. The parking lot buzzed with guests arriving, some from out of state, some I hadn't seen in years. All gathered for what they believed would be the happiest day of my life. Jake's college roommates were out front, adjusting their ties. My nursing school friends stood near the entrance, admiring the flower arrangements I'd handpicked. In the bridal suite, Maya waited, still in the sapphire bridesmaid dress I bought her. She looked nervous, for the first time in her life, fidgeting with her hair, checking her reflection every few seconds. When I entered, she jumped up like a child caught sneaking candy. "Claire," she said, "I need to explain." "No. Explanation needed," I said, smoothing her hair with soft, slow hands. "You want Jake? You can have him." Her face lit up, relieved, smug, triumphant. That same expression she wore when she convinced our parents to give her my bedroom after I left for college. "Really?" she asked, eyes wide. "You're not mad?" "Why would I be mad?" I smiled sweetly. "You're my sister. If you think Jake is your soulmate, who am I to stand in the way of true love?" She was. Glowing now. She thought she'd won. Again. "You're being so mature," she said, pulling me into a careful hug. "I was worried you'd make a scene." "Me? Make a scene?" I laughed lightly. "When have I ever done that?" "Never," she said quickly. "You've always been reasonable. That's why Jake and I knew. You'd understand eventually." "There's just one tiny change to the ceremony," I said casually, handing her a lipstick. "Since you and Jake are in love, I thought you should walk down the aisle today." She blinked. "What?" "I've arranged for you to marry Jake, right now, in front of everyone." The color drained from her face. "Claire, we can't just—" "Why not?" I tilted my head. "You love him. He loves you. The guests are here. The flowers are paid for. The cake's ready. The photographer's all set. And I've arranged for a very special kind of documentation." She didn't speak, just stood there, mouth slightly open, the wheels in her head spinning desperately. This wasn't the narrative she'd planned. She wanted to steal him, not marry him on the spot. Not like this. She wanted slow seduction, not a shotgun altar moment with no escape hatch. "But what will you tell everyone?" she asked, voice cracking. "The truth," I said. "That my sister and my fiancé found true love, and I'm simply stepping aside for their happily ever after." Maya's eyes darted toward the door, toward her reflection, toward anything that might offer a way out. She was trapped. If she refused to go through with the wedding, she'd look like the manipulative homewrecker she was. If she said yes, she'd be marrying Jake before she could spin the narrative, before she could paint herself as the misunderstood victim swept away by passion. Either way, she'd be exposed. "Where's Jake?" she finally asked, barely above a whisper. "In the men's suite," I said cheerfully. "He's so excited to marry you, Maya. Couldn't stop talking about how you're everything he ever wanted." That was a lie, of course. Jake had been texting me nonstop all morning. 17 missed calls between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., dozens of messages begging me to meet him, talk, reconsider. I blocked him, then forwarded all the messages to Maya, with a note, "Your groom seems nervous. Maybe you should comfort him." 20 minutes later, Maya stood at the back of St. Mary's, dressed in white. The gown was borrowed last minute from our cousin Jennifer, conveniently the same size, and gracious enough to help save the day. As the organist began to play "Here Comes the Bride," the congregation shifted in their pews, murmuring in confusion. Pastor Williams stepped to the mic. "Due to unexpected circumstances," he said gently, reading from the script I'd written, "we are here to celebrate the union of Jake Patterson and Maya Richardson." Gasps, whispers, heads, turning like a wave through the church. I sat in the front row, serene, a gentle smile plastered on my face. My parents were beside me, confused, mortified. My dad whispered, "What's going on?" I just patted his hand like everything was fine. Jake stood at the altar looking like he might throw up. Maya, glowing white and visibly shaking, clutched her borrowed bouquet. Her smile was forced. Tight, the corners of her mouth twitching under pressure. Chelsea, the photographer, was poised near the front, capturing every moment just as I'd asked. She was all in, zooming in on Maya's panicked eyes, Jake's clammy hands, my unbothered composure. When Pastor Williams asked if anyone objected, the silence in the church stretched so long it felt like the walls were holding their breath. All eyes turned to me. I gave a small, encouraging nod. Let the show go on. "Jake," the pastor said, glancing at his notes, "do you take Maya to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, for richer or poorer, in sickness and health, for as long as you both shall live?" Jake's eyes flicked to me, begging, searching. I kept my face still, serene. He swallowed hard. "I do," he croaked. "Maya, do you take Jake to be your lawfully wedded husband?" She hesitated. A flicker of panic danced in her eyes. Maybe she realized what marrying a man like Jake really meant, that for richer or poorer might come sooner than she'd planned. But she lifted her chin, the performance kicking in. "I do. You may kiss the bride." The kiss was stiff, forced, the kind of kiss you give someone at a family reunion, not a wedding. Chelsea captured every second of it. During the cocktail hour, I played the part of the gracious sister. I floated from group to group, thanking people for coming, smiling as if nothing were amiss. "Love takes many paths," I told Mrs. Chen, Jake's sweet elderly neighbor. "I'm just glad it found its way." "You're handling this so well," she said, eyes misty. "Most women would be devastated." "Oh, I was," I replied gently. But then I realized Jake and Maya belong together. Jake's college friends looked deeply confused. His groomsmen, stunned silent. Maya's sorority sisters whispered, behind their hands, their phones out, already taking videos of the plot twist wedding. The dinner was exactly what I'd originally planned. Lemon caper salmon, roasted vegetables, wild rice pilaf. The cake was the same 3-tiered vanilla and raspberry design I'd chosen with the baker, down to the delicate sugar flowers and edible pearls. The centerpieces, the lights, the music, all of it was still mine. But now it was all for them. I waited until just before the cake cutting. The energy in the room had shifted. Whispers had grown louder. Guests were watching me closely, sensing something unspoken humming beneath the surface. I tapped my champagne glass with a silver knife. "If I may," I said, rising, "I have a little surprise for the happy couple." Jake froze. Maya blinked. Rapidly. The lights dimmed. A screen descended from the ceiling, the same one I'd rented for a planned slideshow of childhood memories and engagement photos. Chelsea stood ready beside Derek, who was seated at a corner table with his laptop, calm as ever. He hit play. As most of you know, I began, voice steady. Maya and Jake's love story has been blossoming for quite some time. And thanks to Chelsea's amazing talent and eye for real moments, we're all lucky enough to see just how beautiful that journey has been. The video began. Jake and Maya in bed together. Not from the morning I caught them, but from 3 months earlier. Derek's hidden cameras had recorded it in perfect HD, the two of them laughing, naked under the covers, mocking me. She has no idea, Maya giggled. Claire's always been so trusting. Jake, running a hand down her arm, replied, Tell me again about the money. 23,000, Maya said. She's been saving it for years. Once we're married and moved to Portland, she won't be able to touch it. Gasps rippled through the room. No one moved. More footage played. Jake trying on tuxedos while Maya modeled my wedding dress in his apartment. Conversations about manipulating me into signing over business rights. Discussions of which vendors they'd keep using to save money. And then the final blow, a recording. From just last week, Maya on the phone. Claire's always been pathetic. She'll probably beg Jake to take her back after the wedding, but we'll be long gone by then. She's too spineless to fight for anything. The room went silent. The kind of silence that aches in your ears. Jake's mother stood up and walked out. My parents sat frozen in their chairs, pale with horror. Maya's friends filmed the whole thing, their expressions morphing from awe to disgust. When the screen faded to black, I took the mic again. Surprise, I said brightly. I thought everyone should get to see the kind of love story they were here to celebrate today. The room erupted. Some guests stood up and left. Others threw their napkins on the table in disgust. Jake's groomsmen looked like they were ready to deck him. Maya's face disappeared behind her hands, but I wasn't done. One last wedding gift, I said, raising my phone. Derek stood and gave a nod. Every phone in the room buzzed simultaneously. A link, a private site. The full video, screenshots, text messages, everything. Just so everyone can remember this special day, I said. All the footage is there, including some beautiful conversations about how Maya and Jake planned to start their new life, using my life savings. Maya grabbed her phone and screamed. The video was already on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. Derek had sent it to gossip blogs, local news stations, and every wedding group in the city. The hashtag is Our Sisterly Love, I added helpfully. Feel free to share your thoughts. Jake finally found his voice, his face flushed red, with humiliation and rage. Claire, you're insane, he shouted. We can get this marriage annulled. I smiled and pulled a thick manila folder from beneath the sweetheart table. Actually, you can't, I said sweetly, flipping it open. You're both over 18, mentally competent, and said I do in front of 200 witnesses. In this state, consummation isn't required for a valid marriage, and there's no evidence of coercion. Derek had helped me research every legal angle. I'd dotted every I and crossed every T. Congratulations, I said, setting the folder down. You're stuck with each other. This is revenge porn, Maya shrieked, pointing at the now black screen behind her. We'll sue you. Derek stepped forward, calm and collected, holding up a stack of printed documents. Everything was filmed in locations where you had no reasonable expectation of privacy, he said clearly. Jake's apartment building included new security camera clauses in the lease after recent break-ins. Jake signed the updated lease 3 months ago. As for the church ceremony, you both consented to being filmed as part of the event. He looked around the room, voice steady. All footage is legally obtained and protected. We have permits, waivers, and legal opinions. Everything's above board. Jake turned to Maya, grabbing her arm with white-knuckled fingers. We're leaving. Good idea, I said, still smiling. Your honeymoon suite at the Hilton is all ready. Penthouse package, champagne, rose petals, the works. It's non-refundable, of course. I thought you'd enjoy the irony. They fled through the kitchen, avoiding the cameras, dodging the crowd. I heard her shouting at him before they even made it to the parking lot. This is all your fault, Maya screeched. You said she was stupid. You said she'd never fight back. You said it would be easy, Jake shouted back. You're the one who wanted her money. Their voices faded, replaced by the stunned murmurs of guests and the buzzing of phones capturing every moment. The cleanup took hours. Guests trickled out in small groups. Some left in silence. Others approached me quietly to say sorry, for not seeing the signs, for not speaking. Up. Jake's college friends looked especially ashamed. We should have told you, said Mike, his roommate from culinary school. He's been weird for months, canceling plans, lying about where he was. We didn't want to get involved in relationship drama. Mrs. Patterson was the last to leave. She hugged me, her voice thick with emotion. I'm proud of you, she whispered. You stood up for yourself. That boy got exactly what he deserved. And Maya? I asked. She sighed. She thinks she won, but she married a coward, someone who'll run the minute life gets hard. He'll blame her for everything. He always does. The next morning, I woke up in my childhood bed, without the usual weight of anxiety in my chest. My phone had exploded overnight. Hundreds of messages, but not the kind I expected. Support, praise, long overdue apologies, friends, family, even acquaintances reaching out. People saying they'd always suspected Maya was manipulative, that they'd noticed her subtle digs, her flirtations, her need to be the center of attention, but they hadn't wanted to stir up trouble. Now it all makes sense, one friend wrote. Remember when she tried to convince me you were talking behind my back? Texted my old roommate Jessica. I thought it was weird. Now I know she was just trying to isolate you. Jake's restaurant investors pulled out after the video went viral. All $150,000 in promised funding. Gone. Maya's law firm, a conservative company known for its family values, fired her. Cited moral turpitude and conduct inconsistent with the firm's Christian principles. The best message came from Jake's older brother, David. Thank God you dodged that bullet. Jake's been selfish since we were kids, and Maya's perfect for him. Two narcissists deserve each other. 3 months passed. Then one day, I got a text from Maya. I want a divorce. Jake's a nightmare. Everyone treats us like parasites. Please help me. I'll pay back the money. I stared at the screen, then screenshotted it and posted it to Instagram. Caption: Some people never learn. P.S. What money? I never gave you any. The comments were merciless. People had seen the wedding video and shared it far beyond our small community. It had gone viral nationally, maybe globally. Jake and Maya became infamous online, symbols of betrayal and poetic justice. A year later, they were still married. Not because they wanted to be, but because neither of them could afford the divorce lawyer. Their reputations were scorched, their careers in ruins. They'd tried to move to 3 different states, but the video followed them everywhere. Derek made sure of that. The SEO, the tags, the watermark, he embedded them into every platform, every upload, every mirror site. You couldn't Google their names without seeing their faces frozen on that altar, with captions like, Karma Wedding of the Year. Maya eventually changed her name and moved to Wyoming, working as a cashier at a gas station. Jake was washing dishes at a roadside diner. No chance of ever owning a restaurant. And every time they tried to start over, someone recognized them. As for me, I traveled, rebuilt, took that $23,000 I'd once saved for his dream, and used it to launch mine. I started a nursing consulting business, helping hospitals improve patient care protocols, helping people who actually deserved support. Then, something unexpected happened. Derek, the cousin who helped me expose it all, became more than just family. We'd spent so much time together rebuilding the pieces, orchestrating the chaos. It started with late-night planning sessions, then long walks, and laughter over drinks. One day, he looked at me differently. "You know," he said, "I think I fell in love with you during the planning phase. Watching you take your life back like that, it was the sexiest thing I'd ever seen." Last month, he proposed, and I said yes. The engagement card from Maya arrived a week later. A thin, cheap envelope addressed in her jagged handwriting. It was sent to my parents' house, like she couldn't bear to ask for my actual address. Inside, a folded card with gold foil lettering that read, "Congratulations," I guess. She hadn't even signed it properly. Just a scribbled note. "Hope your marriage lasts longer than your capacity for forgiveness." No apology, no accountability, just bitterness wrapped in sarcasm. I didn't respond right away. I didn't need to. But a few days later, I sent her something small, a plain white envelope. Inside, a single sentence on embossed paper. "It will. I finally learned to choose people who choose me first." No return address, just the truth. Our wedding is this coming spring. Derek and I are keeping it small. Well, smaller. Around 120 guests. Still big by most standards, but intimate enough that every person attending means something to us. Really, means something. Maya and Jake, of course, aren't invited, but I'm sure they'll watch. Somehow, some way. People like them always do. And Derek? He already promised to live stream the whole thing, just like the last one. He even joked about tagging the same gossip blogs. Hashtag, real love this time. The guest list includes nearly everyone who attended the first wedding. And you know what? They're excited, not just because they want to see me happy, but because they want to be part of a love story that wasn't built on lies and betrayal. They want to celebrate something real. Mrs. Patterson will be walking me down the aisle. After my dad passed away last fall, she stepped into that role without hesitation. She said, "It would be my honor." And I believe her. She's always understood what it means to fight for love that deserves fighting for. Even Jake's old college friends are coming. They're bringing their wives, their kids, their good wishes. A few of them have already messaged to say how much they admire my strength. One wrote, "I want my daughter to grow up like you." That nearly made me cry. But the best part? Every vendor from the original wedding has offered their services for free. The florist, the caterer, the baker, even Chelsea, the photographer, who messaged me the day after the video went viral to say, "That was the most powerful wedding I've ever shot. I want to be there when you get your real happily ever after." And this time, it will be. Because this time, there are no secrets, no stolen savings, no knives in the back dressed up as hugs. This time, I'm walking down the aisle towards someone who stood by me when my world crumbled, someone who helped me build it again, brick by honest brick. Derek doesn't flinch from hard truths. He doesn't lie to protect his ego. He doesn't make me feel like I'm too much or not enough. He simply loves me, exactly as I am. People ask if I regret what happened, if I wish I'd never met Jake, if I wish Maya hadn't been my sister, if I could go back and do it all differently. And maybe, once upon a time, I would have said yes. But now I see that pain reveals who we are, that betrayal uncovers truth, and that strength, real strength, doesn't come from avoiding heartbreak. It comes from surviving it, from rising out of it, from building something better in its place. So no, I don't regret it. Because that day, my first wedding day, the one that wasn't really mine, wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning. Of self-respect, of freedom, of love that doesn't come with conditions, of choosing me. And this time, when I say I do, it won't be through gritted teeth or a shaky smile. It'll be with a full heart and eyes wide, open. Because finally, I'm marrying someone who never made me question my worth. And that's the only wedding gift I'll ever need.